Well, Frank, thank you so much for coming down to the Rotterman Solutions Center. I have a question for you. You went for the tour. What was your favorite spot on the tour?
I would have to say upstairs, the
Yeah.
inspiration room. I think is with the piano.
Yeah.
So it was awesome, and just the decor and the concept. Um, Honestly, George, though, you have like so many rooms here of different things going on. It's really hard to pick a favorite. The other one that was really cool was your vault, idea vault.
Oh, good.
Really liked how you designed that, and try to encourage open discussion and some kind of a idea process inside your company. So very
Great.
cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like some of your thoughts you gave me there. That was some good ideas you gave me. I'm gonna count those steps that you pointed out. So, what I thought would be really cool is that you could talk a little bit about, you know, in this industry, you started originally in at Midler. Is it
Yeah,
Midler Supply?
independent, very
Yeah.
strong independent. Yes.
And then now you're president of IWDC, which are independents. And I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Kind of full circle there a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how that actually happened. So when I came to Mittler Supply, we were a member of the co-op, and I always tell folks that I'm trying to lead and maybe mentor, in whatever way I can do. You never know what's going to happen, and put your all into everything, every meeting you go to.
Yeah.
And I was at one of our committee meetings. We were starting up a national account program, and I must have made an impression because a few years later the company was sold. I became part of Praxair, and then 4 or 5 years later the phone call rang, and they were doing a search for leadership for the co-op,
Oh,
and somehow
interesting.
they remembered
Yeah.
me and a little bit of help that I gave to that one exercise,
Yeah.
and the rest is history.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? How at the time you're doing something, you're giving it your all, and how that later can pay off. And
Someone can remember, hey,
yeah.
what about this guy?
Right.
So, and then the other connection to California was I was interviewed in Torrey Pines. So,
Oh, wow.
so it's kind of, you know, ironic being
Yeah.
out here with you in Livermore.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I started with the co-op really through a process of being interviewed by the board
Yeah.
and having to be in California also.
Well, that's great. So, IWDC, Independent Welding Distributors, they're really the cream of the crop, fantastic distributors. And as you look at IWDC and you kind of look out in the 5 years, a lot of conversation always about the 5 year horizon of the economy, what we think is going to happen in the economy. There's some doomsday stuff. It seems like it's one or the other. It's either all doomsday or
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. What are your thoughts about the next 5 years?
I'm pretty excited about it. I think there is a true desire, to onshore more manufacturing and produce more things locally.
Yeah,
And I think that's going to help.
yeah,
Um, I also think, without trying to be, there's a lot of friends in our industry. I don't want to pick sides, but when I look at the space that the independents operate in and all the opportunities they have to grow their business, and how large the nationals are, they're international companies now. If you think about it,
yeah,
it's tremendous upside. So, um, you asked me, well, what are my concerns from the co-op? I know you're asking questions. I'm throwing a question out there. It's our what are our challenges? It's really that whole generational transition
yeah.
inside of a group, and we try to focus on that. And I like what I see there. I see a lot of good leaders coming up,
Yeah.
and so
I,
I think it's going to be more growth.
Yeah, I know we're in the idea vault. We're talking about that, the transition of as people are coming up in the businesses and that transition to where they're really kind of going from it's a job to where they're the manager to where it's their career, and they're excited about what that's going to be doing in their company. Now, you through Purity Plus, you have the gas line. I think that's pretty interesting because you're working a gas line, Purity Plus a name, but it's also being ran through independent distributors,
Hmm.
and it's a network across the whole country.
Right.
Could you touch on that a little
Yeah. It was you know, actually going to have its 20th anniversary next year. So we're trying to figure out what to do to celebrate that. And I'll get to it in a second, but I just also wanted to announce that it's the co-op's 30th anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
So when we had our kickoff for our meeting yesterday at our Purity Plus meeting, excuse me, Ashley will correct me on this, our gas meeting sponsored by Purity Plus, um, we showed our 30th anniversary logo, and we're going to do some celebration, and it's going to be connected to our charity we're sponsoring this year, which, I can talk about more later if we have time. But as far as Purity Plus goes, it was the idea of, as the independents mature and diversify their business, putting a brand that a membership can use to differentiate their business to have a legitimate specialty gas business. When you first get into spec gas, maybe some customers are thinking you're just another welding distributor. And what right do you have to service spec gas end users? Purity Plus was designed to give them that brand. So it's a co-brand. It's usually a member, a Purity Plus producer is a co-brand strategy. But to give them the operational excellence and marketing support and sales support to be successful in selling spec gas. So they're installing capacity to produce their own. It's evolved into now trading in between members,
Yeah.
and supplying each other.
And what I love about that is you're creating consistency.
Yes.
So it's across the board. So you can, whether you get it in one state or another state, you're going to get the same consistency.
Which is branding 101.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have reliability.
Right. And if you have a customer that might have locations throughout the United States, you can service them
right
with the same levels of service and quality.
Yeah, and they expect it, and then when they see the cylinder and the label, it looks the same. It's a Purity Plus green with a Purity Plus logo,
right?
And it's just being supplied by someone who's very strong and locally focused.
Yeah, that, you say that's your 20th year anniversary.
Yeah, 20th will be next year for the Purity Plus program.
Congratulations!
Amazing.
That's fantastic. I'd like to know, what is your belief on managing? How do you look at managing people and managing, overall, when you look at, developing folks? And I use the word mentoring because we're big believers at Rotter Manufacturers about mentoring people, but I'd like to get your concept of managing.
Well, it's multi-dimensional. There's a lot of different factors. For one, I think managing and being a good leader is also setting leadership by example, and not expecting something from your team that you're not willing to do yourself, and to jump in and help. It's also to help them be successful, because the company's not going to be successful if your management and your people you're bringing up aren't successful in what they're being asked to do. So I spend time working with our team trying to figure out what can I do to help them be more successful.
Yeah.
Where they have roadblocks. Is the direction we're heading clear enough? And, or do they feel comfortable with the direction? And part of that is also involving them in the strategic planning process. It's not me coming up with a strategy. It's the team.
Okay.
And getting their input and what have you.
So when you talk about mentoring, it could be within the business, excuse me, it could be within the business, not within the business. But do you have something that stands out in your life that really helped and mentored you?
Geez. I'd have to go back to my early career. I was at Union Carbide.
Okay.
And had one key. My first, I went into sales, and my first, Vince Navarro. I haven't had a chance to talk to Vince in years, but he was my regional sales manager at our New Jersey office, and was just a key. The way he conducted himself, the way he supported someone coming in new to the industry, and not understanding the sales process.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was because that was part of my career where you're impressionable and you're soaking things up, but that's one that comes out.
Yeah. Did he have like a set belief or saying or something that stood out to you?
In the morning, it was seize the day. Get up early and seize the day. That's what I remember. And,
okay.
That was his.
That's a good one.
And he would reach out. Back then, we didn't have cell phones, so he'd reach out and check in, because we were I had a territory pretty far away from where he was living, and the phone would ring and it would be Vince. What are you doing to seize the day? What's going on? So just very engaging.
I like that, because he's making you stop and think, what is my plan today, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because sales is not, the best salespeople have a plan.
That's right. Have a plan and work it.
And they're great with follow-up too. That's another thing that he really taught me about. That means a lot. Is someone asks you something, you actually get back to them, and you make all the difference. Right. So many that don't do that.
You know what? I think you just hit the big bell there. I mean, that is the thing, follow-up. You're right. Most people will do the thing, but that follow-up piece.
Yeah.
And or maybe a couple times follow up. It
Yeah.
makes a massive difference.
So
Yeah, that's some great advice. Okay, seize the day, have a plan, and follow up.
follow up.
Okay. Um, so I asked you a moment ago, where you see the economy. What are the exciting things happening in IWDC?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of things going on. We talked a little bit about when we were walking around. I shared some of it with you, so I'll try to touch on a couple. Um, One, we're growing our Purity Plus program. We have more members who are electing to jump in and participate, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's a great growth opportunity inside of our group. Um, we did some strategic planning, around our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and started looking at our systems. And we have a major initiative going on now that will start to share more with our vendor base and certainly our members. It gets a little bit boring, George, but it's around how we process and connect manufacturers and distributors through the co-op to be more efficient about how orders flow, how invoicing flows. So we've got a lot of work going on with a EDI platform that our vendors will learn more about and support us and participate
Yeah.
on. We're in pilot right now on that.
So you're really embracing technology that can help you be more streamlined,
Yeah,
and better service.
and help our vendors gain some efficiency and certainly provide more information to our member base and some efficiencies there to our members who are ordering a lot of product through a lot of invoices flow through the co-op.
Yeah.
We do over 30,000 invoices a month, so it's a high transaction
That is, wow.
data set. So that's exciting. And then our gas program is really doing great, flourishing, and really what we're trying to do there is help our members find reliable. I keep coming back to that word,
Yeah.
because I can't help it where I'm at right now. But sources of supply, and we could talk a long time about that. Just all the different dynamics going on with gas supply.
So you have an interesting perspective because you're dealing with how many independent distributors are members of IWDC?
140.
So you have 140 distributors. As I said earlier, top distributors, really how you should run a business, cream of the crop type folks. When you visit all these different folks and interfacing with them, what have we're always hearing about retention of employees. How do you keep the great talent and developing your folks and they really engaged at a location or your facility? Is there a commonality you've seen where you're talking to all these different distributors around the countries, or things that they're doing or how they're viewing the retention of great employees?
Yeah, the profile of a typical independent and a strong independent is their employee retention. It's amazing when you look at other industries and that we benchmark against. And the common thing I see is they care about their employees. I mean, how they treated their employees during COVID, how they supported them, how they kept them employed, and versus what you saw in some other industries and verticals where, mass layoffs and what have you. Some of them, they couldn't help but do that.
Yeah.
But some of them, it was just a natural reaction. So I think, that's the differentiator, the value they put on their employees and the commitment, and what they care about from the heart.
Yeah, that does make a big. It's got to be genuine.
Yeah,
genuine,
and they see it. Those employees, that I see, just generalizing here with you. I mean, that's what I see.
Yeah, I appreciate that. When you look out 10 years from now and you think about the IWDC, how do you see that? How do you see if you were to say, okay, 10 years from now, IWDC is going to be doing what?
Yeah. It's hard for me to see that far. I mean, I don't know that I have the strength you have on some of the stuff that you're doing in the vision, but I think in North America, there's a strong group of independents in Canada, certainly Mexico, certainly United States. I think it's a great career opportunity as folks come into this industry. It's so diversified, so many different end use segments you can serve, being in the gas and welding distributor business, that it'll continue to flourish, and there'll be a need for best practice exchange, education, networking, things that we provide beyond purchasing. I mean, at their core, it's all about, buying and marketing, but it's people to people business still. I think our real challenge is to continue to support our membership to progress into the digital arena and keep up. That's, if I had any concerns and you didn't ask me about that, I'll go there.
Yeah.
Now it's really in that arena, continue to advance your systems and allow your existing customer base to connect with you and learn more and shop and, do e-commerce. I mean, that's, and there, a lot of the independents are really leaning into that in a significant way.
Yeah.
And we have a role to help them on that, and we're trying to. And that's in the content area that we talked about a little bit.
Right.
Making sure they have a good source of product content.
The gas distributors are very unique because they're really the behind the scenes, deal with all the different kind of manufacturing, such a broad spectrum of manufacturing, everything from biotech to aerospace to mining to, welding to
maintenance, whatever. I mean,
so broad. And there's so much conversation out there that, there's going to be this cliff of the economy, 4 years from now, 5 years now, make sure you kind of, prepared for this oncoming, this could be the worst recession, depression ever.
Right. Because the baby boomers and those macro factors.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you talk to gas distributors that are working, do you think they see it that way? Do you think that they see this 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to be all bad? Or do you think there's a lot more opportunity out there that maybe is being portrayed when we look at the pure economic forecast?
I think we subscribe, and I know Gada does, to really, really good economic. I don't want to do an advertisement for them, but ITR, the Bolios, and they keep their eye on some factors out there, and I think I think most of the independents are optimists in general, and they want to grow. They have no problem investing, and I think what they're listening to is how to position your business if there is an economic event, because we can't keep, sooner or later at some point it cycles and there's a recession. How to position your business for that? But I don't see a concern about the sky falling in and Armageddon or anything like that. So I think they're really tuning in just to make sure they do the prescribed steps they need to take, to be strong through the downturn.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Them looking at it.
Yeah. And we've been through a lot of them. The gas distributorships have been around for a good long time, and we've all seen different scenarios happen. And
but it's been nice growth since 2008, 2009. There's been a dip here, a dip there, but it's been quite a run. So
and the other thing it's wild and fascinating to me is you don't know what the next thing's going to be, right? I mean, there's always that next thing that ends up using cryogenics or gases,
right?
And it could be late when lasers came out. It could be cryotherapy. It could be growing houses needing CO2. It could be dry ice, and all these different areas that have growth. Now we have hydrogen, and liquid hydrogen is a big deal,
right?
And LNG and different things like this. So that's also what's interesting. What will be the other things that come along?
Yeah, and to do a plug on what we're up to. I mean, our gas event that we're running right now, hosted by Purity Plus up in Santa Rosa. We have a lot of great speakers talking about hydrogen, talking about CO2, talking about emerging applications and trends. I'd say most of our group, the stronger independents that are growing their gas business, are trying to figure out some of these opportunities. Like the hydrogen one isn't very obvious. We know what's driving hydrogen,
right.
But how does the independent participate, and how do they position their business to exploit that?
Right,
isn't very clear, and folks are waiting a little bit on that.
Very good point. How do you participate?
I mean, so what's really been driving a lot of growth we've seen, and I know people have different opinions on it, but is the cannabis industry.
Right.
It's been significant.
It is
going on, and it's crossing more and more states, and
right.
Our members are participating in that. There's some challenges there. That's one of the actual segments we're having.
Oh, is it?
Is how to think about it from a legal perspective, and what to be careful for.
Right, and we'll see like our Arctic Fox microbulk tanks and some of the other products that we sell in that industry through distributors. Once that state passes laws, there'll be a flurry of activity. and all of a sudden we'll be getting a lot of distributors calling us up asking about the Arctic Fox tank or
Yep.
other products. And it is pretty fascinating. Then you got the extraction and all the different things
Yep.
around the
All the
extraction.
solvents. And then I think, we talked about CO2 during this visit and the dry ice. There's applications there. So
Right.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And it's also fascinating how one thing drives another. Like there might be EPA laws about sandblasting. So all of a sudden people are using CO2 to blast.
Yeah, the pellet.
It doesn't cause an environmental problem. Yeah. So, yeah, very, very interesting. And then now we also have things like talk about gases. There are shortages of certain gases, right? We have helium, which has got some real challenges,
Yep.
depending on the part of the country you're in. And then we also have in other parts of the country argon shortages, and in other parts of the country CO2 shortages.
Yep.
That has to be transported. So how are you guys viewing that? Does that impact you?
No, it's impacting us. It's impacting our members. They're looking for help in those different strategies. I'd say just kind of racking through them. I mean, helium is a global gas, global supply demand. I think that cycles through. I think the helium industry is okay at this point, and there's a lot of capacity, but there's geopolitical things that are impacting that capacity. So there's a lot to talk about there. I think argon actually is in good supply. It's just a regional issue of moving argon into areas where it's not necessarily produced. So I think some of the challenges with argon really are not so much that there's not enough argon capacity in the Gulf Coast and other areas. It's just locating that in the right use vectors, locations. CO2 is hard to really sum up shortly what's going on with CO2. I mean, there's a lot of different challenges with that. We're trying to find sources of CO2 and, trying to help our partners in the industry develop more sources and provide more product. Right. So that's really what our focus is on that.
Yeah, in many areas we've had the shuttering of places making ethanol, which is a big output of CO2.
Right.
And that's all tied to the industry of oil. And so many things. And interesting also is to transport. Many of the folks we sell all the valves to that are making transports or having a transport trailer, they're 12 months out, 14 months out. So even if you're looking to transport argon from another location, you may have the difficulty of actually having to build out of the infrastructure to get.
And same with CO2. Yeah, same thing. So it's really, you got to act now to position yourself a year, 2 years, 3 years out for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a big logistical challenge.
It is a fascinating time.
And the sequestration, that changes, as every month goes on. There's different views on what's happening, what's not going to happen.
Right.
There's a lot of uncertainty that's adding as well. So
you talked about the charity. I wanted to ask you about that. You have a charity. Is it the current event you're doing? It's going to be.
So we just announced that we're supporting. We supported them 2 years ago. We switched last year to another worthy cause. We're refocusing on Reignite Hope, which is a charity that's based actually in California, Southern California. The principal that started this charity was a businessman, sold his business, became a pastor, and then had a calling and decided to create a training center for people that were homeless. Maybe they've had run-in with the law.
Yeah.
And specifically addressing welding training. So
great.
They do a fantastic job. They've got 3 centers now, 3 training centers. They're trying to open up more centers across the United States. So we're going to be communicating more on that as the year unfolds. But Reignite Hope is going to be our charity this year.
They're training people how to learn to TIG
certified
weld,
welders.
MIG weld, certified welders.
Yep.
That's a brilliant idea because that, as we all know, there's this big shortage.
Yep.
And it's a very well-paying job.
Yep.
It's not like a basic pay. It's a very well-paying job, and it's a skill that builds. So that's fantastic.
So we have a need in our industry. So
yes,
that's our charity, and we'll communicate more. And we hope we get some help from Ratterman and our members and our other vendor partners. And I'm sure we will. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Well, Frank, thanks for making some time to come down and visit the Solution Center here at Ratterman. I really appreciate that. It was fun to show you everything, and I know you've got a lot of good things going on with the conference you're putting on. So thanks for making the time to come down for us today.
Thank you for allowing me to come down and visit with you. You guys are a key vendor to our co-op, and we love working with you. And this was an eye opener. I loved the visit today. Gave me some ideas. So
Great.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, thank you again.
All right.
Okay.
See you.